10-year sentence for Western governor. Health Secretary responds to Laloki water crisis. And descendants of early missionaries return to PNG.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thank you for joining me for Friday's news. Western Governor Ati Wabiro, Acting Provincial Administrator Dr. Modowa Gumoy, and businessman Norman May have been sentenced to 10 years in prison after they were found guilty of conspiracy and misappropriation charges. The three conspired and misappropriated over 7 million kina to set up the Flycare Foundation. The court found that this money was not acquitted for. This decision was handed down before a packed courtroom. And MTV's Tekla Gunga was at the courthouse this afternoon.
The initial sentence was 50 years for the misappropriation charge and 7 years maximum for the conspiracy charge. However, Justice Martin Ipang removed 40 years from the misappropriation charge and 3 years from the conspiracy charge. Each were given 14 years. Further court orders were given for these years to be served concurrently. Before handing down the sentence, Justice Ipang stressed that most persons in positions of powers must be well groomed when carrying out their duties. Justice Ipang also emphasized that proper consultation and procedures must be conducted before any agreements are reached in order to prevent such incidences. An additional order was given for their bail money to be refunded. After considering the mitigating factors, the affidavit and the pre-sentence report, Justice Ipang sentenced the trio to 10 years in prison. Tekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
The PNG Nurses Association has called on all nurses to continue with normal duties. General Secretary Edward Foy told EMTV News that although they support the health support staff for the strike action to better their pay and working conditions, the nurses must continue with normal duties because consequences and disciplinary actions are high for those who fail to abide by directions.
In an interview with EMTV News today, the PNG Nurses Association General Secretary said they can go on strike to support the health support staff. However, while it's unhealthy for nurses, certain services to enhance clinical work will be affected if the health support staff go on strike. Mr. Foy says the nurses' priority is to serve the sick in the line of duties, as per the oath they made to serve the Lord and the state, as per the Essential Services Act.
They're entitled to good, remuneration and housing and all that other things. So that nurses are also asking for. In that perspective, we support what they are claiming, to better their pay and better their working conditions.
Mr. Foy says the strike conducted by the health support staff doesn't really concern the union and they will maintain work.
Doesn't concern our union. We maintain the status quo, maintain work at their workstations and assess the situation. Like if like services that are provided to the clinical, what is starting to deteriorate and all that, then we will assess it from there, and then we will also advise our nurses.
Nurses Industrial Award 2016 to 2018 is now being fully implemented. Mr. Foy said nurses must strive to do their best in the call of duties. Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV News.
Following yesterday's visit by our crew to the Laloki Psychiatric Center outside Port Moresby, workers there have gone on strike due to the ongoing water problem. This comes after Edaranu disconnected the main water supply facility supplying water into their homes. The mental health facility has been without water for 4 months now. Eric Harupma reports.
This morning, workers of Laloki Psychiatric Center went on strike by locking the main entrance of the facility, which accommodates close to over 500 patients.
Our three demand stands is to restore bore water, and this bore water must be running on 24-hourly basis. 7 days, 365 days, it must keep on flowing. And our second demand is for the tapa tank to be installed in all the individual houses for the staff to use, and not only the staff but the patients to use. And our third demand is that we staffs are very sure of, it's not a doubt, that 1 million was allocated by, I don't know, the Department of Health for the runner to be installed to Laloki.
They said the main water facility was disconnected by Edaranu 17 years ago, and even the bore water pump is not functioning well due to leakage. In addition, the bore water pump has not been operating because chloride particles have leaked out of the system and blocked the main pump. For the past 4 months, water services to the hospital ceased, seriously affecting both patients and staff. Many times, hospital staff are arrested by criminals while walking 5 kilometers away from their homes to source water. They said even though the issue was brought forward to authorities, they have received no positive response. This has prompted them to go on strike for an indefinite period until the matter is resolved.
But true around is that they want more than that, and it's about 2 million. And our demand at this moment is we are calling on to the Department of Health, as we are sure that Laloki, the financial capacity cannot meet that, and we are appealing to the Department of Health. And if the Department of Health cannot meet, we are appealing to the government of the day, that is the ONLD government, to see our need and make sure that they allocated 2 million, and there must be a MOA to it, and that 2 million must be given to Edaranu, and the work must commence immediately.
Eric Arupma, National EMTV News.
Meanwhile, the Health Department has identified a way forward to contain the chronic water problem at the Laloki Psychiatric Hospital. This was the response from Health Secretary Pascal Kase when asked by EMTV News to comment.
Mr. Kase said the National Health Department has allocated some funds to reconnect water to the Laloki Psychiatric Clinic. The decision comes after an assessment by technical officials yesterday.
The department identified some money for water to be connected through the Edaranu supplies to the state institution, the Laloki Hospital. But in the meantime, our strategy is now to get some temporary water supplies through tanks to be installed so that it can help especially the hospital services and also the families that are residing at Laloki Psychiatric Hospital.
Some interim measures are now put in place to address the water situation for Edaranu to reconnect the water supply. However, the Health Secretary called on the hospital's management to manage the situation.
Things until at the last minute, and then we start blowing up things in the media. That it's important for the management. There is a duly appointed CEO and a management of Laloki Hospital that must take charge of a situation that is happening at Laloki.
Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV News.
Among stories after the break, descendants of pioneer missionary return to honor his work. Stay with us. Welcome back. The descendants of an early missionary arrived in the country today. They are the grandsons of Reverend Henry Percy Schlenker, who in 1901 brought the gospel to Boku Circuit, Rigo Inland in the Central Province. The men were given a traditional welcome upon their arrival by members of the Gokata United Church and the people of Boku.
Charles and Anthony Schlenker arrived in Port Moresby to a warm welcome. The brothers are grandsons of Reverend Henry Percy Schlenker, a pioneer missionary to Boku in the inlands of Rigo. He was a missionary with the London Missionary Society, and he set up a mission station at Boku, where he introduced the Word of God and recruited students for pastoral training at Karikodobu and Saroa. Chairman of the Gokata Port Moresby congregation, Kurona Bala, said the Gokata United Church of Boku is currently seeing the building of a new church. Connecting with the late Reverend's descendants is part of this process.
The two members of the Slinker family, Charles Rodney Slinker and Anthony Gold Slinker, they are coming here to prepare, to do a reconnaissance, to do a report and prepare the family so that later on when our church is open, the whole family will come for our opening ceremony.
Reverend Schlenker also planted a church in Orokolo in the Gulf province and contributed to the LMS churches in Kalaigolo in Central and Kwato Island in Milne Bay. When asked how he managed to find the Reverend's grandsons, Mr. Bala said it was mainly through the internet.
I had to go through a lot of Australian records, like the Australian Immigration Service, where I had asked them a few questions. But really, a lot of information was supplied by just Google, actually. So through Google, I was able there to track down Slinker Surveying, and Slinker Surveying having the same surname as Reverend Henry Percy Slinker. I then next proceeded there to contact the director, who turned out to be the grandson of the person that I was looking for.
Charles Schlenker said it was an honor to be part of this historic event.
Percy was known as Slinker in this area, but also by the name of Seneca in other areas. What an honor this is, to be asked to represent the memory of our grandfather 100 years on.
Mr. Schlenker said the family is excited about this reunion with the people of Boku and are looking forward to the church opening next year.
My brother Tony and I have come here to meet with you so we can get to know you and appreciate the work that you're doing here to carry on from what our grandfather started.
The brothers will travel up to Boku village where they will see the progress of the new church building as well as to visit their grandfather's first home and the places he impacted over 100 years ago. Deli Waigeno, National, EMTV News.
De La Salle Secondary has become the first secondary school in the country to participate in the Fish for School program. This National Fisheries Authority program offers aquaculture or fish farming classes that will be rolled out next year. National Fisheries Authority Managing Director John Kasu says the program will also enhance livelihood through food security and promote income opportunities through fisheries-related activities.
Aquaculture training will be integrated as part of the curriculum for De La Salle Secondary School next year. National Fisheries Authority Managing Director John Kasu says while this program is offered to technical and vocational institutions, this is a first time for a secondary school to participate. Today saw the launching of the aquaculture training facility, which has been a year project with the National Fisheries Authority at a cost of more than 61,000 kina.
In terms of NFA's functions, we look at capacity building as well as upskilling our resource, human resource. And human resource is one of those important resources for that country. And we think that we need to go down and work together with schools because these are our future human resource. And basically what we've set up here today is a culture facility that they can learn various aspects of.
It will be taken by grade 9 and 10 students under the Know About Business and Aquaculture course. The training facility has 5 grower ponds that houses tilapia, with additional 4 more ponds for juvenile tilapia.
Talked about biology and husbandry of the fish, and before you would look at working with cattle farm and stuff like that at school levels, but now we're looking at aquaculture. We're looking at fish to raise fish. And also, I mean, they can use this facility as an example of some of those programs that they learn if they're looking at business, entrepreneur or development and so forth. They can use this facility as an example to illustrate those courses that they are learning in school.
Mr. Kasu said the Fish for School program is targeting primary and high schools with the aim to increase awareness and equip students and staff with aquaculture. Merlin Diaukatam, National, EMTV News.
The Papua New Guinea coffee industry has made a staggering 590 million kina in revenue this year. The Coffee Industry Corporation expects another 100 million kina in the last quarter. A rural cooperative in the Morobe province is tapping into that growth starting this year. Today, they celebrated their first coffee export to Australia. They are the first rural cooperative to start exporting using their reserved export license. Coffee Industry Corporation boss Charles Dambui says they've achieved step by step the government's tree-to-cup policy. Bethany Harriman with this report.
Today, a small cooperative made up of about 200 farmers from Boana in the Morobe province celebrated its first coffee export under its own coffee export license. Coffee Industry Corporation Chief Executive Officer Charles Dambui attended the event that marks a significant milestone for a rural cooperative that was built by the people. Neknasi's story never fails to inspire. They are the first cooperative to export coffee under their own license. They arrived at this stage by achieving step by step a government policy that promotes coffee from rural farmers directly to overseas buyers.
And that is a reserve export license. They are the first to export. And we are very pleased to see that they have actually progressed. So they are progressive farmers. And we believe that as time goes by, they will gain strength to strength.
Coffee Industry Corporation boss Charles Dambui says the cooperative has become a model that the organization uses to expand the tree-to-cup policy throughout the country.
Melbourne, Australia, and me working first shipment finish. Thank you.
Neknasi chairman Mong Bongung says the cooperative will now deal with dollars and not with kina. With all of that dollars, the cooperative is now going to buy vehicles, build roads, fix schools and pay for their children's school fees.
That's a school fee long, paying school fee long. Me buy me. No worries. Coffee, me direct export now. Yeah.
Coffee has made 519 million kina in revenue in the last 3 quarters of this year. The industry is expected to generate 100 million kina more before the year ends. Bethany Harriman, National EMTV News, Lae.
And now looking at our finance news, the kina closed unchanged at $0.3155 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.3080, $0.4126 Australian dollars, $0.2869 euro, and 33.61 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, cocoa and copper closed higher while gold and coffee closed the day lower. Palm oil and copper closed unchanged while crude oil closed the day lower. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 35.68 points higher, the ASX is trading at 20.86 points higher, and the All Ordinaries is trading at 18.57 points higher. More local and international news after the break, including the APEC summit in Peru. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. The National Airports Corporation has issued a notice to all airline operators that the Goroka Airport in Eastern Highlands will be closed after 1 o'clock in the afternoon starting tomorrow. In the next 5 days, work will be carried out to rectify the pavement mitigation on the runway. Since Wednesday, airline operators have cancelled their scheduled services because safety is their primary concern.
PNG Air was the first to cancel its flight operations into Goroka Airport since Wednesday. Chief Commercial Officer Paul Levitt told MTV News that safety is a priority and will resume once the problem is rectified. PNG Air said they will resume flights on the 24th this month.
After an internal review, have ceased operations to Goroka temporarily simply because we had concerns with the runway and felt that it was compromising our safety standards if we continue to operate in there. So it's an ongoing process for us. It never ends, and we will continue to challenge our safety standards and lift them and ensure that we provide the safest possible product to the people of PNG.
Air Niugini was also likely to cancel its flights, according to General Manager Ground Operations and Aviation Security Marco McConnell. But today, an Air Niugini flight flew into Goroka and will resume normal flight operations tomorrow. The National Airports Corporation says once the problem is fixed, then the airline operators should resume their normal scheduled flights. Fabian Hakelitz, National MTV News.
A response was given on Tuesday regarding outstanding claims of Morobe provincial government contractors alleged to be more than 7 million kina. Acting Morobe Provincial Administrator Sheila Pati Haro addressed the group of contractors before a closed meeting with the leaders of the group. After the meeting, the chairman of the group advised the contractors that the provincial government will sort them out within this month.
The acting provincial administrator responded to this group of contractors outside the provincial administration building on Tuesday. These contractors, who began their contracted services with the provincial government, were not paid in full since 2013. They were given a response after Haro met with the group leaders. Haro says the contractors are service providers and have rights to their outstanding claims. She said proper investigations will be conducted into the management, records of contracts and government decisions before this month in order to sort the contractors' outstanding claims. The acting provincial administrator said her officers are working closely to resolve the issue by this month. She's calling on the contractors to support her and respect decisions made by the authorities. The contractors are demanding the provincial government to sort them out before next year. Julie Badui Owa, National MTV News, Lay.
Deputy Opposition Leader Sam Basil says the high unemployment rate in the country needs to be addressed. He says the country needs policies that drive downstream processing to create jobs, while the agriculture sector needs to be developed into a billion kina industry. Bethany Harriman with this report.
While speaking during a graduation yesterday at the Busu Secondary School, Deputy Opposition Leader Sam Basil highlighted the lack of employment for students who pass out from schools every year.
Now we will be having a lot of unemployment, and we will be having a lot of people with no job and not engaged in any industries.
He told those in attendance that downstream processing of resources is key to creating new jobs. Sam Basil is part of the opposition and can form an alternative government. The Pangu Party leader explained policies that the party would push if it were in power.
We'll make coffee become a department of its own with its own ministry, and cacao to become a department of its own, because the both cash crops are bringing in almost 500 million into PNG's economy. Our aim is to build that 500 million into 2.5 or 2 billion industry.
While Pangu Party and other parties in the opposition may have their policies ready, the ruling party, the People's National Congress, and its coalition partners in government are still intact. This year, the opposition tried to change governments with votes of no confidence, but that hasn't worked. And the PNC and its coalition partners will be a formidable force in next year's general elections. Pangu is now speaking a whole new language, one that may seem as political suicide. The party leader is ready to stop round log exports and process them onshore.
We will stop round log exports, and that message should go to all Papua New Guineans that if a party comes out and say that we want to stop round log exports, all the logging companies will put their money behind political parties that will make them export round logs.
Bethany Harriman, National MTV News, Lay.
A member of Lay's Cyclist Club says most citizens see unemployed youth as young people with no purpose or aim in life. Lay Pedal Power Cyclist Club Secretary Micah Vivera says youths have dreams, but they are unable to achieve those dreams because of the lack of support they get. Vivera made these remarks after he and 54 registered members went out on the streets of Lay City seeking financial help from the community after most of their requests were turned down.
This group of cyclists is mostly made of unemployed youths from within Leh City. The club has been in existence for more than a decade, but was not effective due to funding constraints. The group of youths are planning a 2-day bike ride from Leh to Medang on the 28th of this month to be part of the Medang Music Festival, whilst also commemorating World AIDS Day that falls on the 1st of December. Their aim is to get youths involved in this program over the festive season and keep their minds occupied and away from illegal activities.
Keep us away from all Islam and initial activities. At the same time, also, we are useful.
The club has been seeking financial help from business houses in Leh to support them on their 2-day ride to Medang, but were turned down. According to the secretary, they have been advised to have proper documentation of their club profile to prove they are a legitimate club. Thus, they have been carrying out their own fundraising to raise funds to cover for food, medical and other expenses during their trip to Medang and back to Leh. Today, they went to the streets pushing a wheelbarrow in and around the city for the general public to help contribute to their cause.
Push a wheelbarrow around, Leh City na ask all man, help me plan, donate him plan, some little coins law, can help me plan law. So this little coins people like Simba help him plan law, buy him all marriage gold, accessories people, all pay parts or some tube or tire. So people can help him all mangilo, so sold down, people can find transport law or come back.
The secretary is also calling on the community, NGOs, health and education departments to work in partnership with them in assisting youths find hope. Most of these youths have not been given the chance to be in the formal education system. Thus, the relationship built between them and other stakeholders, in particular the education department, will help them immensely. Mata Luis, National EMTV News, Leh.
Turning overseas, world leaders will be meeting in Lima, Peru in the coming days, where the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit is taking place. And now, with the U.S. leadership in a state of transition, China is expected to step forward and even offer its free trade agreement.
The world's rising superpower singled out for the wrath of Donald Trump in the lead-up to the U.S. election.
We can't continue to allow China to rape our country, and that's what they're doing. It's the greatest theft in the history of the world.
He threatened to slap 45% tariffs on one of America's biggest trade partners. Trump's victory, arguably bad news for U.S.-China relations. But if he turns inward, focusing on domestic issues, as he suggested during his campaign, it could also provide an unexpected boost for China's regional clout.
Strategically, Beijing will be under less pressure from a less active U.S. presence in the region. So Beijing's operating environment will actually be freer.
To start with, President Barack Obama's dream of signing the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP, trade deal with 11 countries and excluding China now appears dead in the water. Which means it's going to be Beijing, not Washington, seeking support for its regional trade deal here in Lima when leaders from 21 nations meet for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit this weekend. Will we see leaders here warming to Chinese President Xi Jinping's proposed trade deal? Perhaps joining the ranks of the Philippines' Rodrigo Duterte, who was already in Beijing earlier this month seeking investments. Despite the country's historically strong ties with the U.S., he's been an outspoken critic of Washington and Obama.
So, you can go to hell. Mr. Obama, you can go to hell.
China may also have more room to flex its military muscle if U.S. alliances weaken. Japan and Korea rely heavily on the U.S. for military support, but Trump has threatened to withdraw that support unless they pay more for it. In the South China Sea, China has aggressively sought to wrest control of the important trade route from its neighbors, using island building and land seizures. The U.S. has been viewed by China's neighbors as a stabilizing force.
As long as Donald Trump does not invest considerable time and energy to chart out a multilateral strategy for the South China Sea, China will have greater latitude to be able to pursue its interests.
In the end, President Trump will spell major changes, but might not put the brakes on China's ascent.
Prime Minister Peter O'Neill is also attending the APEC meeting in Peru. The Prime Minister will enter into discussions with his 20 counterpart APEC leaders on how the region will deal with the impact of slowing global trade and other issues such as enhancing skills development in a digital age. The APEC region accounts for half of global trade and 40% of the world's population and consumer markets. A downpour of barrel bombs on eastern Aleppo for a third day with more devastating and deadly results. A haunting gloom, the streets of the city bombed out rebel-held neighborhoods. Syrian activists say at least 45 people were killed and dozens more wounded from more than 40 Syrian airstrikes. Planes are more than birds, one resident said, and bombs are more than rain.
Day 3 of the Syrian regime's bombardment of East Aleppo and the surrounding countryside, and the numbers that we're getting from Syrian activists on the ground paint a very grim picture. It looks like, according to those activists, some 140 people have been killed in the first 3 days of this renewed bombing campaign on rebel-held East Aleppo. And if that pace of deaths were to continue, it would far exceed the 500 people who were killed in just 1 month before that 3-week pause that has abruptly ended this week after that text message from the Syrian regime on Sunday warning residents of Aleppo that they should either get out or die. But of course, they don't trust the humanitarian corridors. They feel there are snipers that might aim at them from either side. And so you have more than 250,000 people trapped in that city, living with explosions and artillery fire and fear, especially the parents who fear for their children. Those horrific videos emerging showing kids holding their backpacks, sobbing, walking through rubble. And the sad fact is that for this young generation, this is the only reality they know. They don't know what life is like not to be afraid of the sound of an aircraft overhead, followed by explosions around their hospitals and their schools and their homes.
Chukai Sports is next. We'll be back with all the details. Stay with us.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome to Chukai Sports. And in football, the PNG girls have one last match remaining, while the US is a step closer to the quarterfinals. Here's Jeremy with all the details.
Thank you, Helen. Every team that arrived in PNG for the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup brought a little bit of home with them. Team Nigeria, for one, have an interesting story to tell.
Coming from a nation that is passionate about its tradition, culture and religion, Team Nigeria, though a long way from home, can rock up a room when they want to. 17-year-old debutant and defender Glory Ogbonna said most of these songs are for praise and worship, where they thank God for the many blessings. And when they win a match, it's an even bigger reason to sing and dance.
Football is my hobby. I have passion for football. And when I was being selected to play for my country, Nigeria, under this under-20, I was very much happy, and I have the full confidence that I will go and showcase myself. I never have any fear in me. I just believe that I will go there and I'll prove myself.
Ogbonna herself, a footballer who has played football for as long as she can remember, has just finished high school and now playing in the World Cup is one of the greatest achievements in her life. For the team so far, they have not found anything in PNG different from the home country. But when it's not a match day, they rest as much as they can so the time difference factor won't take its toll on them. in support of FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup 2016 theme, To Inspire, to Excel. These young women shared her thoughts for all youngsters in Papua New Guinea.
Encouraging the young players coming up that they should put focus, and not only football, they should try to be educated, because after football, life still goes on. So I still urge them, anyone that have that passion, to play football. Football is all about passion. When you have the passion, nobody will be able to stop you.
Dini Rose Raiko, National EMTV Sports.
Papua New Guinea's hopes of making the quarterfinals of the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup may well be out of the picture, but the girls have one last match to make an impression. Coach Lisa Cole's side has put everything on the line leading up to this moment, and despite being hammered by Brazil and being taught a lesson by Sweden, the future of women's football in Papua New Guinea looks promising.
Thank you, Jeremy. When we come back, the day's other sporting news. PNG RFL CEO terminated and the Puk-Puks prepare to take on Zimbabwe. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. The Papua New Guinea Rugby Football League has terminated Chief Executive Officer Bob Cutmore. At a special PNG RFL board meeting held earlier this week in Port Moresby, the board made the decision to terminate his contract for non-performance following a review of his performance this year.
PNG RFL Chairman Sandy Saka said Cutmore was appointed in October 2015 to develop and achieve certain goals and objectives, both in terms of football operations and governance and administration within the PNG RFL and its programs. Unfortunately, some of the goals and achievements have not been met, resulting in his termination. Meanwhile, the board has appointed a caretaker administration headed by PNG RFL Treasurer Rea Taurau to oversee the operations of the PNG RFL in the interim to ensure stability and continuity in the league's programs. The termination takes effect immediately and the decision was relayed to him straight after the board meeting on Monday night. However, he was allowed to complete his final duties by accompanying Chairman Sandy Saka to the RLIF meeting in England. Elijah Levitt, National EMTV Sports.
The PNG Puk-Puks will play their third and final match of the Regal Hotels Cup of Nations this weekend in Hong Kong. Despite a 49-19 loss against Russia on Wednesday, the Puk-Puks were pleased with their improved performance and are now heading into tomorrow's last and final encounter against Zimbabwe with a whole heap of confidence.
Their improved performance against Russia has boosted and lifted the team morale, leading into tomorrow's final encounter against Zimbabwe.
The feeling's good. We know we really like to go in and get a win, but getting a win is one thing. It's how you work towards getting it. And
Coach Sidney Wesley says the past 2 days have been focused on their set pieces, lineouts and scrums, which have been an obvious letdown throughout the tournament.
A lot of things in the game where we really need to work on, and set piece plays a crucial part of that. I think the speed of the game and general play, all those sort of things, I think we've got it. We just got to fix our lineouts and our scrums, and that's one thing that we've worked on over the last 2-3 days. But then again, we can't scrums and lineouts. You can't fix it in 2-3 days. But I'm quite confident of how I see it. The boys have improved on that during the sessions leading up to tomorrow's game.
Vice captain and a crucial man in the forward pack, Elipe McKinney, has promised a different game plan against the Zimbabweans.
Badly confident. We've got all our set pieces. Hopefully, that will hold up against the Zimbabweans. The boys have been working really hard behind the scenes, and it should be probably a lot more open rugby tomorrow against the Zimbabwe guys. Yeah.
The match kicks off tomorrow 4 p.m. PNG time at the famous Hong Kong Sevens Stadium. Lorraine Genia, National EMTV Sports, Hong Kong.
And that ends True Kai Sports. The weather details after the break.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
Looking at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region, cloudy at times in Port Moresby, cloudy periods in Daru and Popondetta, morning showers in Kerema and some showers in Alotau. In the Momase region, cloudy periods in Lae, mostly fine in Medang and Wewak and brief showers in Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, partly cloudy in Lorengau, fine weather in Kavieng, brief showers in Kokopo, Rabaul and Kimbe and a shower or two in Buka. And in the Highlands region, morning fog, then fine weather in all centres.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
And that's the way it is this Friday, the 18th of November 2016. From the entire news team, enjoy your weekend. Good night.